Obsidian is working on their next exciting project, doing what they do best, and that's making RPGs, and this being their take on Skyrim. In this video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about Avowed, covering all of the info that they released so far, going through various interviews, the gameplay, the whole 9 yards, so let's get into it. I already said that this is Obsidian's take on Skyrim, and that was the actual pitch for the game. The Obsidian CEO, Fergus, says that initially Avowed did start off as this grand open-world-esque Skyrim type game, but then the game got rescoped. They took a hard look at what does Obsidian do and what do they want to be known for, and that's for stories and companions. So they scaled back the world into a more compact world and are really focused on the story, gameplay, and RPG elements that Obsidian is known for. The game director for Avowed confirmed that the size of Avowed will be close to the Outer Worlds or Knights of the Old Republic 2, and it's set up as a series of interconnected zones that players will be able to explore, but not to the massive scale of Skyrim. Starting off, let's talk about the setting of the game. Avowed takes place in the world of Eora, which is the same world as the Pillars of Eternity franchise, and the game takes place specifically in the Living Lands, which is a remote corner of the world where you're sent to investigate. The Living Lands is home to bustling port towns, rolling hills, and adorned with weird and fantastical plant life. Each part of the Living Lands is home to its own ecosystem, so we can see in the trailer that there are caves, mountains, grasslands, and a variety of other biomes. The main character comes as an envoy of the Adir Empire, and the main character has an established role as the Imperial Envoy. We don't know what that role is yet, but the personality, appearance, philosophy, and vibe that you bring to the role is up for the player to decide. Speaking of character creation, it's confirmed by the Avowed game director that you will be able to play as a human or an elf. No other races will be available as of right now, and the game will be purely single player experience, no co-op. The reason that races are limited to just humans or elves is because you're coming from the Adiran Envoy, so this game focuses heavily on the lore and seems to be lore friendly, and people of those empire are only humans or elves. One of the main questions you're probably asking yourself is, do you have to play Pillars of Eternity before playing Avowed? And the game director answered this question directly and said, no, it's not necessary to play any of the Pillar games before playing Avowed. You can come to the game totally fresh, but for people that have played the game, there are a couple of returning characters from Deadfire in particular, and you'll also be able to recognize some of the world and the factions and the role that the Adir Empire plays in the world. Now, let's talk about companions. We already saw one companion, Kai, in the trailer, and there's going to be a ton others. And usually in RPGs, you have this companion that you can recruit, and they sometimes help in terms of attacking and firepower, but they don't really have anything to do with the story. It's generally pretty hard to tie companions into the story, and they're usually kind of just a side focus, and more for physical support in terms of their abilities. Well, in Avowed, they've confirmed that companions will be central to the game, and not just a side component. So companions are deeply tied to the story and tied to your party. You'll be able to recruit 2 companions with you at a time, so you have this tight-knit crew with you, and they said that these people are part of your story just as much as the larger events that you're getting into. They were also asked if companions can die, and the game director paused and said you'll have to see. So if they couldn't die, I feel like she wouldn't say that, but since she paused and didn't confirm, it definitely means that companions could possibly die. Maybe this could be a Batman or Spider-Man type situation where you have to choose between saving one companion over the other, and it alters the story dramatically. Now let's talk about the main story of the game and what we know about it so far. Like I mentioned earlier, you're an Imperial on an envoy from the Adir Empire, set to investigate a mysterious plague corrupting souls. We can see the plague in some of the gameplay trailers, such as the growth on the bear, who's covered in some sort of soul disease. The locals of Living Lands aren't super thrilled to have an Imperial presence in their remote lands, and that's where the adventure begins. You're not a watcher as in Pillars, but you do have this unique soul connection to the world. The dev said, as you begin uncovering the mysteries of the Living Lands, you discover a personal connection to the land itself. We're not sure what that personal connection means yet, but it definitely has a tie-in with the story. And like other Obsidian games, the dialogue in this game will have an impact onto the story, and it's how you shape the main character's own personality. The devs confirmed that they really focus deeply on the stories and companions, so the story and dialogue options in the game should be pretty detailed. Now let's talk about Avowed's gameplay. So we can see that it's a first-person, two-handed combat, and it looks very similar to Skyrim 2.0. So you can wield swords, shields, dual-wield pistols, magical spells, and a combination of the like. So you can dual-wield magic and melee simultaneously, and the game is systematic, so elements like water and lightning or fire and ice all interact with each other. Now it doesn't go so far where if you put a bucket on someone's head that they won't be able to see, but still lightly systematic according to the game director. You'll also be happy to hear that they focused a lot on tuning combat. So the developers spent a lot of time trying to tune the feel of swinging a sword versus a mace or an axe to make combat feel right. This naturally goes right into the progression of the game. I know we're all tired of getting the same weapon with just 1 point increase in stats, stat and not making a big difference to the actual weapon. So the way Avowed is approaching it is that they're giving smaller but more meaningful upgrades. The developer says that if you're upgrading your weapon from one tier to the next, you should feel the difference. And then there's the magic and ability system. So you'll have several ability trees to progress through, and you won't be locked to a specific class or playstyle. There will be a leveling system, but the focus will be on unlocking new abilities rather than putting points into stats to grow stronger. Then we also saw a ton of magic spells that were showcased in the gameplay trailer, and we're not sure how many magic spells will be possible, but it seems very mixed in with the combat. So overall, Avowed is shaping up to be a pretty solid game. It's not as massive as I originally thought, and it definitely feels like Obsidian's take on Skyrim, which I'm totally game for. But what about you? What do you think about everything they've shared so far? And if you like the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's free and it helps the channel a ton, especially since I'm not even monetized yet. So I'm just making these videos for you all.